Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to have all of you here, and I truly appreciate you taking the time to join us today. I am Det Arwego, Managing Director of Assessment Analytics, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's session, Labor Law Compliance Updates for HR Practitioners. This session is part of our series of 20 complimentary webinars in celebration of AAI's 20th year, and we hope to see you again in our upcoming sessions. Welcome to today's session. As workplaces continue to evolve and labor concerns become more complex, staying updated on labor developments is now more important for organizations and HR professionals alike. In today's webinar, we will be covering recent updates in labor regulations as well as key issues surrounding illegal dismissal cases, topics that remain highly relevant in today's workplace. We hope this session provides you with practical insights and a clearer understanding of how to better navigate these challenges while maintaining both compliance and positive employee relations. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's session, Attorney Michelle Carice Mitch Baloes. Attorney Mitch is the managing partner of Feriat and Toco Daos Law Offices, a 102-year-old law firm. Her practice focuses on corporate and commercial transactions, mergers and acquisitions, corporate governance, data privacy, capital markets, and labor-related matters. She has extensive experience advising both local and international clients on regulatory compliance, workplace policies, employment concerns, and legal risk management across various industries. She has also handled labor and employment matters before the Department of Labor and Employment, as well as the National Labor Relations Commission, and she is a trained arbitrator and member of the Philippine Dispute Resolution Center. She also serves as our corporate secretary here in Assessment Analytics, working closely with us on corporate governance and compliance matters. Attorney Mitch earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in philosophy from Ateneo de Manila University and her Juris Doctor degree from the Ateneo Law School. She was admitted to the Philippine Bar in 2012. So please join me in warmly welcoming Attorney Mitch.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Det, and thank you, Assessment Analytics, and thank you especially to all the participants of today's webinar. I'm happy to join you this afternoon, this Friday afternoon. Malapit na mag-weekend, konting-konti na lang, kapit na lang po tayong lahat. Okay? And thank you very much for spending your time with us. I really just wanted to share a few updates which I think would be relevant for people who are practicing in the human resources field. So before we begin, please feel free to drop in the chat what particular industry your companies belong to, kung ano pong field, or if you are an HR practitioner, kung ano pong position ninyo sa company. So we can also provide mga relevant examples, or maybe we will be able to provide more context when we discuss these labor law updates. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, just a quick disclaimer. So I am a lawyer, but nothing that I say today should be construed as specific legal advice for your situation. Syempre, abogado po tayo, so we have to provide a disclaimer at all times. So what we want to present today is just purely for educational purposes, and the information provided are just expressions of my personal judgment or maybe based on my personal experience. But if you would want to ask any questions, please reserve them for the end of the session. And if you want to connect with me, I'd be happy to schedule a consultation with you. You can reach me at my email address posted on the screen. Okay. Now, just to run through what we want to discuss for this afternoon. First is, I just wanted to highlight a few labor regulations, mga recently issued labor regulations of the Department of Labor and Employment. Second is, I wanted to also highlight a few interesting labor cases that you might find relevant in your practice or that you might be able to relate to. Three, I wanted to include in the labor cases some practical takeaways or lessons learned, basically, that we can apply in our own workplaces. And fourth is just a summary of all of the things that we discussed, and also some tips on how to maximize the use of external counsel. So my role is really an external legal counsel for companies, and there are many times when clients come to us requesting for consultation on various labor-related matters. So I hope to be able to give you some sort of insight on the perspective of where we're coming from, legal counsel is coming from when you engage us for a particular labor matter. Okay, so let's get the ball rolling with recent labor regulations. Okay, so I'm just going to be discussing not too many, just three. In fact, these were all actually issued in 2025. Hindi naman po kasi lahat ng issuances ng DOLE may be applicable to across the board to all kinds of industries. Just to see, and I'm taking a look at the chat right now. So I see a lot of people, FMCG, shipping and logistics, finance, automotive, quick service restaurants, manpower. Okay, thank you very much for adding to the chat. Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's go into the labor regulations. The first one that I wanted to highlight is that on May 1, 2025, there was a DOLE department order issued which contained the revised implementing rules and regulations of the Occupational Safety and Health Standards Law. So the OSH law, basically. And it's a very long department order, so I'm not going to discuss it in complete detail. I invite you to please download the department order if you have not yet seen it. But just to highlight what new things were presented in the department order. So for workplaces in general, what the DOLE is asking us to do now is to provide a more systems-based, detailed, risk-based, technology-aware, workplace, location-aware also OSH framework. What that means is now OSH covers all different kinds of workplaces, including workplaces such as co-working spaces or residences that were converted into workplaces. So previously, before the issuance of this IRR, the Secretary of Labor and Employment ang nagde-determine, siya po ang nagsasabi kung ano yung mga standards ng OSH and anong programs. But now, they really codified OSH into a framework to be more consistent with global practice and to be more proactive and enforceable. So the objective, of course, is to prevent injuries, diseases, deaths, and also to promote productivity, business continuity, national growth, etc. There is even an explicit mention of workplaces that have electric vehicle charging or battery energy storage systems, because these carry a higher degree of risk in terms of safety and health standards that need to be employed in the workplace. And ang isa pong gusto ko rin pong in-note para sa ating lahat is that the OSH law specifically states now that it covers even the contractors and subcontracting activities na ginagawa po sa ating mga workplaces. So now, principal employers cannot say na wala po kaming liability or wala po kaming pakialam sa gagawin ng mga contractors or third-party subcons na pupunta sa workplace po namin. In fact, principal employers can be liable for anything involving the implementation or enforcement of safety standards or health standards within workplaces, especially po sa mga mas high-risk na areas. So that's just something that you might want to note in the future when looking at this OSH law and how to implement it. The next regulation we wanted to highlight is this department order issued by DOLE, which is on the implementing rules or guidelines on anti-discrimination against women. So this is not a new concept. In fact, it's already in the Labor Code, Article 133. But what these implementing rules did was to really define what discrimination means. It means when there is payment of less compensation to a female employee as compared to a male employee for work of equal value. Okay, tanong po, pwede po bang magkaiba ang sweldo ng babae at ng lalaki na may parehong posisyon? Okay, feel free to drop in the chat your answer. You're all HR experts, so I'm sure you know the answer. So, ang sagot po is yes, pwede pong magkaroon ng pinagkaiba as long as meron pong objective factors na basis. Okay? Hindi naman po completely or absolutely prohibited. Ang importante po is meron pong objective basis kung bakit po nagkaroon ng distinction. Ano po ba ang objective basis? So things like length of service or seniority in the company, or halimbawa po, madedestino ang isang tao sa mas malayong lugar kung kaya't kinakailangan magkaiba ang sweldo, or that's why there has to be a distinction in the rate of the salary. So pwede po 'yon. Pero ang pinaka-importante po is that these objective factors are documented. So as external counsel, we've seen it time and again na nagkakaroon po ng mga distortion or distinction sa mga sweldo maski magkakapareho ng posisyon. And then, pag nagkaroon ng kaso o reklamo, biglang magkakaroon ng document, di ba? Sige, gawa tayo ng document kung bakit kinakailangan na magkaiba yung sweldo nila. Ang mas magandang practice po, one of the best practices is at the time of determining the distinction in the salary, doon na po natin gawin yung policy. Bakit po magkakaroon ng ibang rate ng salary ang isang tao na may parehong posisyon or pareho ang nature of work? Yan. So, instead of making it as an afterthought. Okay, so just to note that this is something that DOLE is also emphasizing and pushing for. Okay. So the third regulation that I wanted to also highlight is this new IRR on SENA. And I'm sure, as I can see in the chat, panay po HR practitioners. So I'm very sure you are much experienced in SENA, and I'm sure you deal with this on a constant basis, right? So ano po ba yung bago dito sa IRR? Hindi naman po bago ang konsepto ng SENA. But what DOLE is doing now is they're making SENA or single entry approach po para sa mga hindi po HR practitioners. They are making it more accessible and easier for employees to file complaints or requests for assistance. Okay, ano po bang ibig sabihin? So meron na pong online portal ngayon ang DOLE where employees can actually request for assistance online. All they have to do is indicate what kind of employee they are. Maski po kasambahay, maski po OFW, pwede pong mag-request for assistance doon sa website ng DOLE for SENA, no? How does this impact workplaces or companies? This means that you can expect, or you may already be experiencing, an influx or an increase in the number of SENA requests for assistance or complaints that you receive. Okay. So, as external counsel, bigyan ko po kayo ng scenario na yung usual po namin na experience. And feel free to drop in the chat experiences of similar nature. So, halimbawa po, Friday afternoon, 2 p.m., mag-i-email ang kliyente sa lawyer. Attorney, meron po kaming scheduled SENA 9 a.m. sa Monday. Meron po ba kayong pwedeng ipadala na lawyer? Ayan, very good. Sino po ang nakagawa na niyan or naka-experience ng ganyan? Okay, so this is a very common scenario for us. Unfortunately, no, and I say unfortunately because it leaves us very little time to prepare. But I also understand the situation of employers or companies or HR practitioners where sometimes you're not left with much of a choice, and you don't see the SENA notice right away, ano? So hindi alam ang gagawin. So ano pong nangyayari? Now we as external counsel, we request for documents, we request for information about this particular employee. Ano ba ang nangyari? Ano ba ang source ng complaint? Okay. And a lot of times, we don't always get a complete record. And minsan ang concern palagi is, attorney, gawa niyo na lang ng paraan na ma-dismiss, na hindi magtuloy-tuloy na maging kaso. Okay. Ang isa rin po naming na-observe is that a lot of times, the expectation is that during the SENA process, magkakaroon ng parabang oral arguments ang dalawang panig. Attorney, kasi masama naman talaga yung ginawa ng empleyado namin na yan. Itong ginawa niya, ganyan-ganyan, ganyan-ganyan. Gross and habitual neglect. gross negligence, di ba? So, ang daming ikikwento, di ba? So, attorney, dapat talaga hindi magtuloy ng kaso yan. Okay. Ang SENA po ay hindi po ito ang forum kung saan dinidiscuss ang merits ng isang kaso. Okay, the role of the labor arbiter during the SENA is really to be more of a conciliator or a mediator, which means that the objective is for there to be an opening for a possible settlement or negotiation on the complaint. So tinitingnan lang ng LA, meron bang chance na magkaigihan or mag-agree para hindi na po siya maging isang full-blown labor case. Di po ba? So, gusto ko rin pong i-explain sa ating mga HR practitioners that sometimes we have to also change the way or change our expectation of what's going to happen at that stage. And what will really also help your external legal service providers is if you can provide a full case record, meaning all the documents involved, all the facts involved in the particular case, so that we have better context po to negotiate on your behalf. Ayan, kasi minsan mahirap po yung hindi namin alam yung buong situation o hindi kaya merong mga facts na hindi agad binibigay. So, nahihirapan po kami sa ganun because then we're not able to negotiate properly. Okay, so now let's discuss cases that went past the SENA process and went all the way to the Supreme Court. And I thought I'd discuss a few Supreme Court cases worth noting. Some may be more interesting than others. And I'd also like to see if you can guess whether how these cases were eventually decided. Was the employee validly dismissed, or what did the Supreme Court case say kaya, or what did the Supreme Court say about this case? Okay, so let's start. The first one is this case of Paulino versus Sutherland Global Services Inc. in Clark. Okay. Pasintabi lang po sa mga HR practitioners, I have no personal knowledge of any of the facts in any of these cases. These are publicly available documents and I'm only relying on what was stated in the Supreme Court decision. So, kung meron po kayong kakilala dito or kung meron po kayong kamag-anak po dito, pasensya na po kayo, I did not do this intentionally. Okay, so these are just a few cases that we picked out which we thought might be interesting. Okay. So, this case actually made some headlines in some of the newspapers because it involved a pregnant employee, si Isabella Paulino. She was a senior training specialist at Sutherland Global in their Shaw Boulevard office. In fact, she was so good at her job that she was named Trainer of the Year or Best Trainer a few months after she was employed. And then eventually, she was designated as OIC training manager. So later on in that year, after she was made training manager, she disclosed that she was pregnant with her second child, so nabuntis po siya. And then sinabi po ng company, okay, lahat po ng trainers lilipat po sa Clark. Okay, so si Miss Paulino po ay nakatira sa Bulacan. So sabi niya, okay, silipat sa Clark, and then according to her, it was presented as if it was a temporary arrangement and bibigyan din po siya ng hotel accommodations, shuttle, transportation, etc. Okay, so pumayag siya. Lipat siya sa Clark. On the same day that she was assigned to Clark, in the Clark office, a few hours later, sinabihan siya, actually, Isabella, lilipat pala ang mga trainers sa Tarlac. Okay, so medyo magkalapit ng konti pero hindi rin ganun kalapit. And for anybody in the room who's been pregnant, I'm sure you can understand the inconvenience of suddenly being transferred, ano po? So, ganun din po yung sinabi, okay, it's just temporary, ililipat ka lang namin pero meron kang hotel, meron kang shuttle service, meron kang per diem, etc., etc. Okay, so she had to travel around 3.5 hours daily from her hotel in Clark, kasi dun pala sa Clark siya nilagay, to the Tarlac office and back. And syempre, being pregnant, she suffered a lot of motion sickness, and eventually, she could no longer continue doing the training sessions in Tarlac. So, after being moved to Clark and Tarlac, she said, nagreklamo siya dun sa company. Sabi niya, ang daming unfair treatment sa akin. Sabi nila, they were insulting me for not finishing the Tarlac training. They were preventing me from even bringing a blanket in one of the areas kasi sabi niya, nilalamig daw siya. She was prevented from taking breaks, etc., etc. So what did she do? Nagreklamo siya. After niyang manganak, sabi niya doon sa kanyang supervisor, baka naman po pwedeng lumipat po ulit ako sa Shaw Boulevard branch or office kasi po I want to be close to my baby. A very understandable reason. Ano po ang sinabi ng kanyang supervisor? Sabi po sa kanya, baka naman gusto mo mag-resign ka na lang para may mag-aalaga ng baby mo. Okay? And then sabi din sa kanya, hindi kayo pwedeng basta lumipat kasi meron kang relocation bond. And according to Miss Paulino, this was the first time that she actually heard about the concept of a relocation bond. Okay. So ano ang ginawa ni Miss Paulino and what would any of us do in that situation? So surprise. No, hindi naman surprise. But she resigned. Okay. And she wrote a very extensive resignation letter and she explained all of the reasons why she was resigning, all of the different and unfair treatment that she had to suffer while she was being employed. And eventually she just voluntarily resigned. Okay. So ang tanong po, nag-resign po yung employee. Ano po ba ang ibig sabihin pag nag-resign? Is there still a risk that they could be declared as illegally dismissed? Nag-resign siya voluntarily ha. So ano pong sagot natin? Please feel free to drop in the chat. Okay. Yes, constructive. Correct. So may plus points po lahat na nagsabi ng yes. Very good. Okay, yes. So she was considered by the Supreme Court as constructively dismissed. Okay. So what's unique about this case is that the Supreme Court made it very clear. A resignation letter does not automatically mean it was done voluntarily. Okay? So minsan po pag nakakatanggap na tayo ng resignation letter, no, we see the resignation letter, minsan alam ko meron tayong mga kumbaga baka meron po kayong mga employees na non-regrettable departures, 'di ba? Na ini-expect niyo na magre-resign sila. And you might already feel like okay, they voluntarily resigned, therefore wala na kaming sagutin diyan. Hindi na kami liable. But in this case, what the Supreme Court looked at was not just the fact that she wrote I voluntarily resigned. They looked beyond that. They looked at the whole totality of circumstances that Miss Paulino had to endure. And what they decided was that what happened to her was in fact pregnancy discrimination. Even if wala siyang demotion, even if hindi siya binawasan ng sweldo, it was still considered as constructive dismissal. And therefore, she was entitled to be paid back wages. Okay. And considering po na this case, I think was started sometime in 2016, and this case was finally decided in 2025. So ilang taon po yon na meron po siyang back wages, separation pay pa po, moral exemplary and nominal damages. All because the conditions of the workplace became so harsh for her to endure that she had no other choice but to resign. Okay, so I want you to also think about that as HR practitioners when you're evaluating risk or looking at whether a situation might lead to liability for your various companies. Okay, some points that maybe you would want to consider as HR practitioners is that there should be clear documentation on why there is a need for a transfer, especially considering her condition as pregnant. Minsan nga po, as I mentioned earlier, ang documentation nangyayari after the fact, ano po? Pero dapat po, before pa lang ng transfer, ano po ba ang reason? Bakit kailangan mapunta sa Clark at on the same day, napunta naman sa Tarlac? Ano po ba ang legitimate business reason doon? Ang mga kliyente po ba ay lahat based in Tarlac and therefore hindi pwede nandun siya sa Clark? Wala po bang alternative like an online training session, etc., etc.? Okay. So this means that even if employers can validly exercise management prerogative, ano, a term we hear a lot. Management prerogative is not absolute, especially if it results in creating these harsh, difficult conditions, which leave employees with no choice. Okay, so yung binigay po na example ng court was the relocation bond and the unfair application of rules. And even the actual language na ginamit ng supervisor niya in saying, baka gusto mo mag-resign ka na lang para may mag-aalaga ng baby mo. Imagine mo kung ikaw yon na-quote ka ng Supreme Court, ano? So we have to be very careful about the language that we use or the way that we approach our employees, no matter how we feel about them personally or what their performance is like, because we don't know, in fact, if that's creating an impact that would result in a harsh, unnecessary condition for them, leaving them with no choice but to resign. Okay, so again, resignation is not a guarantee that you will be absolved or you will never face liability for subsequent labor cases. So we must also evaluate the nature of the resignation. Okay. So the next case, ito naman po, si Paluwagan Queen, ang may nag-post ng Supreme Court. SC affirms dismissal of accountant who used payroll for Paluwagan. Okay. Actually, medyo may konting discrepancy lang sa description ng Supreme Court, but we'll discuss that when we go through the case. So in this case, there was a chief accountant, si Varquez, who was later on made a finance manager in a company called Ryder Levitt Buckdow Philippines, Inc. Okay, so as finance manager, she handled payroll, yan, cash position, bank recon, financial statements, etc., etc. Meron po ba tayong taga-finance dito? Or familiar sa role ng finance? Okay. So ano po ba yung ginawa niya? So according to this case, ang kwento daw po is that nung una she was very close with one of her supervisors, and then when the company was suffering financial losses, before that pala, meron siyang tinayong paluwagan fund. Okay, so very common po yan, ano. Ang ginawa po niyang paluwagan fund was she put up a bank account in her name, nalagay Claudia Clemenia, parang Claudia PYF for C. Varquez Fund. And basically, employees could loan against this fund and employees could receive amounts at the end of the year. Okay, so they pooled a portion of their salaries basically into a common fund. But when the company experienced financial difficulties, she and some of the other company officers said, okay, we have to find a way to cover payroll kasi hindi kaya ng company na sagutin ng payroll. So anong ginawa? Ginamit niya ang paluwagan fund to fund their payroll. Okay, without the consent of management. But okay, wala namang masama. Bakit parang tinulungan naman niya yung company, ginamit niya yung paluwagan, parang ganun, ano? But that's not all that she did. So after that, she also resorted to allowing cash advances that were not supposed to be allowed. She allowed payroll deductions to the Paluwagan Fund, which were also not supposed to be allowed. And there were numerous other irregularities that occurred while she was finance manager involving unauthorized overtime pay, payroll, petty cash, etc., etc. So basically, maraming anomalyang nangyari under her watch as finance manager. So eventually, yung kanyang supervisor came in and then started doing an audit. And then they discovered, okay, ang dami palang irregularities dito. Ano ba nangyayari dito sa kumpanya natin? They issued an NTE, okay, notice to explain. And then they completed their audit report, then issued an NTD, and then dismissed her, okay, for all the irregularities. Okay, sige, so tanong po tayo sa chat. Valid po ba ang dismissal? Okay. Valid po ba ang dismissal sa isang finance manager who conducted many irregularities, who took advantage of the employees in their paluwagan fund, etc. Okay, yes. So medyo obvious naman, no, it's valid. But what's unique about this case is that even if she was considered as validly dismissed, the Supreme Court noted that there was a defect in her notice to explain. Ano ang defect? Okay, so a lot of times kasi lagi kaming kinoconsult, attorney, okay na ba tong NTE? Or most of the time, pinapakita na lang sa amin kung anong itsura ng sinerve na NTE. Wala na kaming magagawa at that point in time, di ba? Okay. Ang nangyari pala is that when the audit report was finalized, hindi po binigyan ng kopya si employee ng audit findings. Okay. Nangyari naman yung audit report after nung NTE eh. So, bakit siya bibigyan ng kopya? Or sabihin mo ng natapos nila. The Supreme Court ruled that because she was not given a chance to refute the allegations or to clarify the concerns raised in the audit findings, there was a defect in the notice to explain, and therefore, even if she was validly dismissed, even if she committed various irregularities, she was still entitled to nominal damages. Okay? So, lahat po tayo nag-agree, valid yan, hindi tama yung ginawa niya. But sabi ng Supreme Court, pero may mali pa rin kayong ginawa, employer. Hindi maayos ang ginawa niyong notice to explain. Hindi niyo sinama lahat ng basis, lahat ng ground kung bakit niyo siya kinoconsider na nag-violate ng mga company policies. Okay. So, how does that apply to us as HR practitioners or to our companies, right? So some of the things that I would like us to consider are justifiable cause to terminate an individual may not always be enough, okay? Her position as finance manager carried a great deal of trust and confidence. Siyempre, pera yan eh. Mahirap talaga ang maglagay ng tao sa situation na marami siyang control over the funds. You really have to institute a lot of safeguards. But that doesn't mean that just because there was a grave abuse of trust and confidence, that you can just justify the dismissal without providing valid grounds or the complete findings of an audit. Dahil nga po pera yan and subject siya to audit, dapat binigyan siya ng pagkakataon na i-refute or at least kung humingi man siya magkaroon ng hearing para mapakinggan kung ano naman ang side niya. 'Di ba? Maski na gaano po tayo kagalit sa kanya or maski na gaano po ka-strained na ang relations within the company. So, the Supreme Court said, don't rely on vague charges. Dapat may specific acts. Ano bang ginawa niya? Anong date niya ginawa yan? Magkano ang nawala? Ano pa ang ibang documents and ano pa ang naging violations? Alin sa mga company policies ang na-violate? Okay. Minsan po meron tayong mga NTE na template, hindi po ba? So sometimes, lalo na if we are doing a lot of things, sometimes the NTE might not have all of the complete facts. Okay. You can still remedy that. You can still provide another notice to supplement the initial NTE and then provide the second notice to dismiss. What's important is that you give the employee a chance to understand ano ba ang naging kasalanan ko, ano ang na-violate ko. And if they want, pwede siyang mag-consult ng sarili niyang abogado or representative para magbigay ng depensa. Okay. So, hindi rin naman po pwede. I think in this case, ang nangyari din po is she was only given around 48 hours to respond. So, medyo kulang po yun, especially kung meron palang audit na nangyari. Okay, so you also need to give them a sufficient amount of time to respond, but that doesn't mean that you're precluded from dismissing them. So, just make sure that in your notices to explain, you are being consistent and that you're providing facts, documents, and clear violations of the company policies, even in the first notice pa lang po. So, even with a very strong case, there can still be damages. Okay. I can see some people saying, correct. Yes, we can feel the conviction. Talagang tama po yun. Okay. Ito naman po, a job offer once accepted cannot be withdrawn. Okay, this case involves an individual. This case was very, very interesting to me because he applied for the position of swine technical manager of the Pacific. Okay, so he was still employed with the previous company. He accepted the offer of this company, Alltech Biotechnology Corporation, and then binigyan siya ng offer letter. Okay, so nakalagay doon, meron kang 6-month probie period. This is the date that you'll start work on July 1. When you go to the office, you'll sign your employment contract. Ito yung term mo, ito yung sweldo mo, etc. Okay, So tinanggap niya, he signed the offer letter and resigned from his current job. But then, while he was not yet coming to work, kasi hindi pa start yung commencement date niya, there was a global restructuring effort done by Alltech Biotechnology Corporation. And because of that global restructuring, ano nangyari? Naging redundant ang kanyang position. And it was abolished. Okay, so those kinds of decisions are sometimes way beyond the purview of HR, no? And you are constrained to figure out a way to implement that. In this case, he had already signed the offer letter, but he was redundated. So anong ginawa ng company? Okay, ganito na lang, sabi sa kanya, we will give you 1 month salary as a gesture of goodwill kasi hindi pa naman siya nagsimula ng trabaho. Right? Wala pang July 1 nung sinabi sa kanya na abolish na yung position niya. In fact, it happened sometime in June. Okay, anong sinabi nung employee? Hindi ko tatanggapin yan. I will not accept that goodwill payment, and instead, he filed labor claims. Okay, so this was all happening in 2016. Ano po? Okay, so what do we think happened? What did the Supreme Court say? Is he an employee already? Can he be redundated in the way that he was redundated? So drop it in the chat. Let me see if you agree with the Supreme Court, if you have the same conclusion as the Supreme Court. Okay. So the Supreme Court said that because he accepted the offer letter, even if he did not yet sign the employment contract, he was actually already considered an employee. And the July 1 start date was a period. It was not a condition for the employment to start or for the employment relationship to begin. So therefore, he could not have been subject to a redundancy in the way that he was redundated. He was entitled to receive back wages and separation pay. So ang pagkakamali din po ng employer in this situation was when they explained that there was a global restructuring, the only support they provided was a single affidavit saying na nagkaroon ng ganitong decision from the principal, ito ang situation, so therefore hindi na namin kailangan yung position mo and it's no longer necessary and we want to streamline, etc., etc. Okay, so it wasn't enough proof that there was indeed a need to declare him as redundant. The affidavit, the Supreme Court said, was too vague and general. So, sabi sa kanya, you were illegally dismissed. Okay. Now, what does that mean for HR practitioners? Some points to consider. When you offer a job offer letter, when you give a job offer letter, consider this always as a binding obligation on the part of the company. In fact, if you can already coordinate the signing of the employment contract as soon as possible, that would be best, so that all of the standards, all of the conditions by which they are bound are usually kasi in the employment contract. Okay? So be careful kasi the offer letters already contain all of the details of your employment. And just because that position was declared as redundant later on, it doesn't mean that you can unilaterally withdraw, okay, the accepted offer. Kasi tinanggap na niya eh. He already signed. Now, if talagang may redundancy, okay, which happens, it happens all the time na nagkakaroon ng ibang business needs ang mga kumpanya. There has to be a restructuring plan, a showing that there's this old and new staffing pattern. Therefore, itong mga functions na ito mapupunta sa ganitong position. That's why we no longer need this position. And then proof of management approval. It was discussed during a board meeting, etc., etc. Things that could also help are like any notices or letters sent to DOLE about the redundancy, or if, for example, you're declaring a number of positions redundant, that could also be something that you could inform the DOLE about. So, a general statement, an affidavit saying, okay, nagkaroon kami ng restructuring, therefore redundant ka. Sabi ng Supreme Court, hindi po yun sapat. Okay. So sa atin pong mga HR practitioners, what's important is that you also need to coordinate your recruitment efforts with any business units that are involved in restructuring. And hopefully the restructuring units will also consider this as part of their agenda when they already know that there needs to be restructuring efforts or redundancies made, so that you don't have to be bound by offer letters for positions that will eventually be declared redundant. Okay. Imagine, in this case, he was awarded back wages in 2025 for a position that he never worked in as of 2016. So that's 9 years in total. Okay. So this one is a bit of a sensitive topic. It's about sexual harassment. So trigger warning lang po. But I just also wanted to emphasize this case because it's becoming a little bit more rampant. In fact, there are more news items about sexual harassment happening in the workplace. And this is an example. This is a case that happened in 2024. So Miss Buban was a customer care senior specialist in Xerox Business Services, and she had a TL or team leader, si Nilo de la Peña. And she alleged that she was sexually harassed by Mr. De La Peña. What happened was she went to her workstation. She had a headset. Her headset was not working. Her TL said, kumuha ka ng headset sa storage room kasi maraming headset doon. So pumunta siya doon, kumuha ng headset, sinundan. Binlock ang entrance ng storage room, hindi siya pinayagang umalis, and then made very explicit sexual remarks to her in the storage room, eventually leading to more overt sexual acts, resulting into sexual harassment. Okay, so after that, Buban was very shaken. Ano? So she told her team, she told HR, she complained. But anong ginawa ng company? The company basically referred the matter to their security services provider, so their security guards. Okay. And they said, okay, well, ni-refer na namin. Sila yung nag-investigate kung ano ba nangyari. And ang masama pa sa nangyari is hindi agad sila pinaghiwalay. They were made to still work in the same workplace during the same shift. Okay. So the issue here is whether that failure to act or refer to an actual investigating committee created a hostile work environment for this person. Okay. So what's unique about this case is that the Supreme Court actually said she was constructively dismissed even if hindi siya nag-resign. Okay, so she was actually a single mom and she could not afford to not work. So sabi niya, hindi ako mag-resign. But eventually over time, because hindi siya nilipat ng workstation, hindi nilipat ng shift yung her alleged abuser, she felt that she could no longer continue working under those same conditions. And at the same time, the Supreme Court found that the company itself did not comply with the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act to prevent, deter, and properly address sexual harassment in the workplace. That includes setting up a committee that will investigate kung ano ba talaga nangyari. What is the defense of the other side? What is the allegation of the other side? Okay. But what was also made clear in this case was that because she did not resign, even if she was considered as constructively dismissed, she was not entitled to back wages or separation pay. She was given a portion of her unpaid salary that she wasn't paid for before and damages plus interest until such time that the final award could be fully paid. Okay, so usually kasi pag constructive dismissal, kasama na dyan ang back wages, ano? But because in this case, she did not stop working, she was not considered as entitled to back wages. So what does this mean for HR practitioners? We should take sexual harassment as a serious issue and not just a misconduct issue on the part of the one who commits the harassment. Okay? There is also a degree of how the employer must respond. And the liability of the company in this case did not come about just because the harasser was a TL or a supervisor, etc., etc. The company became liable because after being informed of such sexual harassment, they did not provide any protection or they did not afford any process or, they were not sensitive about the facts of the situation to protect the interests of their employee. So they left the complainant in the same work area, etc., etc., creating a hostile environment for for Ms. Buban, and that employer inaction resulted in liability for damages. So, HR should consider three distinct issues when looking at a case like this. How to discipline the offender after an investigation, of course, protection of the complainant and her interests or their interests, and company's compliance with harassment procedures. So, also, this last case, this is the final case that I'll discuss. This was a 2024 case, and the reason why I found it a bit interesting was because the whole on bank of the Supreme Court decided this case, and in fact nagkaroon pa sila ng discussion in the opinions on what should be when back wages should be reckoned. Okay, probationary employee and the 2 notice requirement. Okay, so this involves a nurse who applied for training supervisor with a particular hospital, and she signed a probationary contract. Okay, so sabi sa kanya, okay, ito yung path mo. Magiging staff nurse ka, tapos ward head nurse or supervisor, and then training supervisor. And then what happened was during the course of her probationary employment, sinabihan siya ng supervisor niya, alam mo, nag-apply din yung ICU nurse, yung ICU head nurse, and mas qualified siya. So malamang hindi mo makukuha yung posisyon na training supervisor. Okay. And then, nag-absent itong si Miss Barbosa. So, the company, what the hospital did was they said, okay, ang dami mong absent. Nagkaroon ka ng absent noong November 4, November 7, November 8. Therefore, awol ka. Miss Barbosa said, oh, but I filed the necessary leave documents. I notified my supervisor na mag-absent ako. So, it was not also consistent with the way that the company was employing their company policies, because she was never given a notice to explain for other absences that happened earlier on. Okay. Despite the absences, she was given an average score of 80%, which was the score that she had to achieve in order to become regularized. Eventually, after the NTE was served, she was terminated. And then they said in their performance evaluation that she had various attitude issues, and then she had an abysmal attendance record, she had negative performance, etc., etc. Okay. So, pag probationary employee po ba, dapat ba 2 notices yan? Okay. Ito po ay very common question. Kasi nga, ang probationary employee, you provide them with an employment contract which clearly states some performance standards by which a proby employee should comply with, and therefore, saka lang siya ma-regularize. Dalawa po kasi yung schools of thought dyan. May mga kaso na nagsasabi, basta hindi mag-comply dito sa performance standards, pwede nyo nang i-terminate yan kahit isang notice lang. But, as external counsel, we always advise our clients, gawin nyo pa rin pong dalawa ang notice requirement. And this case is actually an example of why. So, she was determined as illegally dismissed because what the hospital employed as the reason to dismiss her was not lack of meeting the reasonable standards. It was a just cause kasi nga absent siya ng absent daw. She met the required score that she needed to meet. So, what the hospital had to do was they had to provide 2 notices showing that they investigated the matter, and then she would be entitled to a valid dismissal. But she was considered as illegally dismissed and entitled to full back wages up to her reinstatement. But in this case, it was no longer feasible, strained relations na, so she was not reinstated, so it was until the finality of the decision. So again, 2014 po ito nangyari, 2024 na po natapos yung kaso, 10 years po yan worth of back wages, and she was just a probationary employee. Sabi ng Supreme Court, if she had not been illegally dismissed, she would have become a regular employee, and therefore, she is entitled to back wages as if she was a regular employee from that time until the present. And ito po, dito nagkaroon ng discussion ng ibang mga justices. Sabi na, hindi, dapat hanggang katapusan lang ng probationary period niya. But ultimately, that's what the Supreme Court ruled. So, key takeaways for us HR practitioners. Pag sinabi pong proby, hindi po yan ibig sabihin exempt na agad sa security of tenure and you can just automatically terminate them with 1 notice. It's better to err on the side of caution and provide 2 notices pa rin po. And you have to communicate the standards very clearly at the beginning of their employment. hindi yung hahanap na lang po tayo ng mali pag ayaw na natin silang i-regularize. Okay, so do not rely on post-termination evaluations. Yan po. Huwag po tayong gumawa ng documents after the fact para meron tayong pang justify sa kanyang termination. So, if the dismissal is because of just cause and not because of the reasonable standards, always provide 2 notices. The safest route, always provide 2 notices no matter what the reason for termination. Okay? And then illegal dismissal of a probationary employee, even a probationary employee, may still result in back wages as if that employee became regular. Okay. So HR practitioners should always document the reviews, performance appraisals of probationary employees as well to avoid, yun nga po, yung mga nire-remedyohan na lang natin pagkatapos. Okay. So, just a few more notes. I know some of you already have questions. These are just some areas that you should be aware of based on what I discussed. There is a need to maintain good documentation. Feel free to consult with your legal counsel to figure out what kind of documentation is lacking or if there are any gaps in your processes. Okay, so any transfers or work conditions should not be so harsh as to force an employee to resign. And for dismissals, there must still be procedural due process. Okay, so dapat sufficient po ang ating mga NTE. Accepted job offers, treat them as employment contracts. Sexual harassment complaints, you must respond promptly and with enough protection for the accuser. Okay, and enough investigation also for the accused. And employers may be liable, not only because of the decision itself, but because of weak documentation, which we also always see. Okay, and these are just some tips for engaging your external counsel. If you can engage us or external counsel as early as possible, that would be the best possible course of action, so that we can have a full understanding of the case and involved in your particular matter. Okay, so I want to make sure we still have enough time for questions. Sorry if I went over, but please feel free to drop more questions in the chat so we can address them. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Mitch. We got some questions. We received some anonymous questions, and I know that there are also some questions on the chat, but I just want to read some of them. Hopefully, we will be able to read all of them, but if we don't have time anymore, we will just send them to you so that you can respond to them. Earlier, you said that in the case of Vasquez, she was given 24 hours only, and that is not enough. What is the ideal number of days for us to say that it is that the timing that was given was just right? Kasi sabi mo, di ba, too short yung notice of 48
hours yung binigay sa kanya. So I would first look at the situation. Ano ba yung nature ng violation? If, for example, in the case of Vargas, kasi it was involving a lot of audit findings, extensive audit report, bigyan naman natin siya ng at least a week to respond. Kasi if you only give her 48 hours, it's like you're saying it's impossible for them to really make an intelligible response or defense, and therefore, hindi siya makakapag-provide ng justification. So talagang dismissed na yan.
Okay. And then you said that 2 notices. So is it a requirement to give 2 notices before you terminate?
Yes. So that's called the twin notice rule. So as I said, even for probationary employees, what we always tell our clients is just err on the side of caution and give them 2 notices pa rin. Huwag tayong maging kampante with 1
Hindi
notice.
pwedeng isa lang.
Yes. Notice to explain, notice to dismiss.
Okay. All right. And then there's a anonymous question about what proof is needed to charge an employee for constructive dismissal due to mental health issues.
We do not charge po our employees with constructive dismissal. Finding po yan ng illegal dismissal of the Supreme Court. So, meaning it's a conclusion reached by the court that says, okay, you were not actually dismissed. You did not actually resign, but in effect, you were dismissed by the company kasi that's the way the conditions or the environment came out too. So, ano yung reason? Sorry.
That's why it became an illegal dismissal, ganun
Yeah,
ba?
so it becomes an illegal dismissal kasi technically, hindi mo sinunod yung process. Ginawa mo lang, pinahirapan mo yung tao para wala na siyang choice except to resign. So
Ah,
constructive dismissal yung tawag doon.
Okay. All right. And then, kasi di ba pag probationary, sabi mo nga, parang you don't have, it's not an excuse that because probationary, you can just end the probation. But what is the legal standing and what are current best practices on offering a graceful exit? Um, saan ba yan? Through voluntary resignation when an employee has already been determined not fit for regularization.
Yeah. Okay, so if you've already if you've already determined that the employee has not reached the criteria, no, then you
Mm-mm.
can discuss it with the employee and say, based on our evaluation, ito yung findings namin. And because of these findings, it looks like we will not be able to regularize you. Because yun nga yung yung gusto naming mangyari is that you reach this criteria and that's when you can become regularized. So you
Mhm.
leave the option to resign with them. If they ask, can I just resign? Of course, that's an option. But we do not advise employers to say, alam mo, mas mabuti pa mag-resign ka na lang kaysa
Okay.
terminate ka namin. Kasi dyan tayo nagkakaroon ng problema.
Mm-mm.
Para bang napipilitan sila ngayon na mag-resign.
You
Okay?
don't offer it.
Yeah. So
Let them decide.
let them decide. I mean,
Mm.
usually people are always aware of the option to resign. But if you see that they have not met the criteria, you conducted the performance appraisals, you also did the twin notice requirement, the risk of further cases for illegal dismissal goes down significantly because that means you follow due process.
Mhm. Okay. Is it legal to use HR as the reason for an employee's resignation if HR check, for example, about attendance on the employee's attendance siguro ang ibig sabihin nito. Now, we're not regularizing you because of your attendance as given by HR. I think this is what it meant. Kasi
Okay,
yung
depende po
question
yan
like that.
Depende po yan sa company policies and sa yung code of conduct po natin or yung handbook natin. Ilan po ba yung absent and did it violate company policy? Ano po ba yan? Approved leave po ba yan? Or mga awol po ba yan? Or masyadong maraming sick leave, etc. etc. On its own, you might not be able to just use absent ka kasi, so therefore, ito-terminate ka namin. But if because of the absences, nagkaroon tuloy ng neglect, or di ba, gross and habitual neglect, willful negligence, or it resulted into a just cause for termination, then yes, you can terminate that employee after going through the whole due process procedure.
Okay. May kadugtong kasi may
Yeah,
addition pa. And when the HR talked to that employee, she said that she's just frustrated that time and the HR checking of attendance added to her frustration. Then she opened up some reason of her resignation. After that, HR talked to the immediate head of the employee and told what they discussed to clear her name. But the employee didn't admit it with the head. Instead, she reversed the story. Medyo I
okay.
don't also understand.
So, medyo marami siyang facts.
Medyo
So,
madami
I
na.
want to avoid giving a conclusion without understanding the whole situation.
Mm-mm.
Maybe just to go back to the situation na yung sa pregnant employee, no?
Mm-mm.
Look at whether or not yung conditions ba niya are so harsh na wala na siyang ibang choice. Na para
Mm-mm.
bang yung frustrations ba niya were so justified. Kaya wala na siyang ibang choice kundi mag-resign kasi hindi niya naman ako binibigyan ng pagkakataon to work or fulfill my responsibilities. So,
Mm-mm.
yan yung mga dapat nun yung tingnan pag in-evaluate yung risk.
Okay. Attorney Mitch, it's already 4 o'clock. So
Okay.
we just want to know if you're still okay or
Yeah, of course. Okay. No
oh, sige,
problem.
because we have a couple more questions. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. How should okay. Kanina, di ba, parang you have an example about giving a job offer. Tapos,
Mhm.
hindi natuloy. But what if it's reverse? If it's the other way around, when it is now the applicant that already accepted the job offer, but changed his or her mind and did not pursue the employment. Is the can the company siguro file a complaint or against the applicant that signed already the job offer but decided to withdraw?
Okay. Complaint, I would ask what's your objective in filing a complaint? Are you trying to seek damages against that employee because now you have to spend more for recruitment? Because
Mm-mm.
it's not really a strong case to be entitled to damages, ano? Because an employee, even if they accept the offer, can always resign. 'Di ba? So, it's not something that the company should be that can do na para bang, oh, ba't ka nag-resign? May impact sa amin yan, kakasuhan kita.
Oo.
Especially in that case na hindi pa naman siya nagsimula magtrabaho. So it's very hard to quantify kung ano yung impact or amount ng
Mm.
impact ng damages na nagawa ng hindi niya pagtuloy sa trabaho na yon.
Mm-mm.
So, I would say in that case, just document that they are resigning or that they're no longer accepting the job offer and make sure you keep that on record. So if in case any issues arise, you can always show na ikaw ang nagsabi na you don't want to continue or you don't want to be employed by this company.
Alright. Pero hindi nila pwede habulin.
Ah,
Yeah, diba?
you can try, pero parang ano ang objective, 'di ba?
Yeah, yeah.
What can you prove kumbaga na naging damage sa inyo? Kasi you remember when you file a
Mm-mm.
case for damages, it's not just
Yeah.
something that you can say, ay may damage ako or naiinis ako sa iyo, therefore I'm entitled to compensation. You have to prove that there was actual damage that you need to be compensated for.
Mm-mm. I'll just finish reading the anonymous and then I'll read the ones on the chat if okay ka pa.
Sure, no
All
problem.
right. Um, what about threat? Like sinabi na mananaksak ng ballpen.
Okay.
Ah,
Okay. Sinabi sa ibang kapwa empleyado na
oo.
nananaksak ng ballpen.
Mananaksak ng ballpen. Then the employee said it was a joke. Kunyari, somebody threatened a coworker that sasaksakin kita ng ballpen. Siguro ganun yan. But
Okay.
then you complained and then said that that I threatened you. That
Okay.
I said that I'm going to stab you with a pen. So
Okay.
when HR siguro asked me, then I just said, hindi, it was a joke. Is there a
Mhm.
case against the employee? Can you file what?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So pag ganyan, I would first look at your code of conduct, 'di ba? Your handbook and see what it
Okay.
covers, 'di ba? Are you very clear in your policy na you do not encourage any acts of violence or things that might threaten the life or the security of other people? And then we also have to look at the context. So there you should, or it's always prudent to have an investigation. Ano ba yung context niyan, 'di ba? Kasi ang daming pwedeng maging
Yeah,
context. So, sakin kita ng ballpen dyan eh. Or pwedeng, talagang nag-aaway sila, di ba? And also, parang in that situation, I would also have to ask, ano ibig sabihin ng saksak ng ballpen? Hindi siya talaga deadly weapon, ano? But of course, again, you go back to the code of conduct in the handbook. What does it provide? Is there any ground for disciplinary action based on that statement alone? Was it done in a particular context where that person had reason to feel like I'm in danger or that
Yeah.
I will no longer be able to work here kasi nakakatakot or medyo may problema yata yung isang employee. Ganun.
Mm. Okay, so you really need facts. You need to find out more
You need to
about
find
it.
out more. Hindi pwedeng in isolation. Sabi niya
Yeah,
mananaksak na ng papel. O sige, tanggalin niyo na yan. Hindi pwede yun. Medyo
Mm.
mahirap yan.
All right. Okay. Okay. If the employee already submitted his resignation on March 16 with effectivity on April 16, but during the rendering period, there was an incident of sexual harassment committed by the employee, and on April 15, which is the day before the effectivity of the resignation, we only received the complaint letter against him. Does due process still have a bearing in terminating the employee?
Well, in that case, kasi that person already resigned, di ba? So, there's no need to terminate anymore. But, an act of sexual harassment does not remove the possibility of filing a criminal case for violation of the anti-sexual harassment law or even the Safe Spaces Act. So, I would suggest that the accuser look at engaging counsel and looking at whether or not they have a case to file a criminal complaint for sexual harassment versus the employee. Kasi, wala nang magagawa for a termination or an administrative case in the company because nag-resign na siya eh.
Tapos ito pa, if do you have any recommendations for employees who went on AWOL? and
Mhm.
failed to return company assets with regards to the financial cost or impact.
Yeah.
Pwede mo pa ba habulin?
Very, very common. Very
Yeah.
common. Pwede
Mm.
pong habulin, pwede pong mag-file ng criminal complaint kasi pwede pong makonsider yan as theft. Or if may pera pong involved, pwede rin pong makonsider as estafa. Again, we have to look at the totality of the facts, ano? Kasi may mga companies naman talaga that allow work from home and allow you to bring home your laptop. So, baka mamaya nagkasakit or may ibang nangyari, di ba? So, investigate, look at possible disciplinary action under your code of conduct, impose it, engage counsel, look at whether or not it results into criminal liability.
Okay. Okay. How would an HR handle situation where an applicant has accepted the job offer and initiated the pre-employment requirements process, but suddenly goes completely unresponsive? Parang pareho pa rin yung kanina,
Parang
di ba?
AWOL, yeah. So we still have to,
Parang hindi pa kasi ano pa
hindi pa siya
completing pa lang
nag-start.
hindi pa nga siya employee, di ba? Parang it's parang the same as the earlier example.
You're still considered as an employee with a binding employment contract, assuming ng kompleto yung requisites ng job offer letter. So, I would not treat it na para bang job offer pa lang naman yun, tsaka hindi pa naman siya tapos sa requirements niya, so therefore hindi pa natin empleyado yan. Kasi paano pag pumasok siya, 'di ba? And nag-start na siya ng work niya or they start doing their job, then they might be considered already as an employee or the employment has started. In the case that I mentioned kanina, that person did not even step foot in the office and yet naging entitled siya to back wages. Yeah.
Okay.
Medyo mahaba yung mga ibang questions.
Medyo mahaba. Kasi I'm just worried about your time because I know that you still have extra slides, additional slides after this.
No, I was just the extra slides are just some tips on how to engage counsel. So
Okay.
for those who have questions that they really want me to answer, I think I flashed on the screen yung aking email address. You can send it to me or Assessment Analytics can also compile it and then it can be forwarded so I can respond. But if meron na po kayong external counsel or legal counsel, then I would also suggest engaging them as early as possible para meron na rin po kayong clarity. Kasi minsan po hindi kaya ng isang tanong lang at isang sagot. Kailangan po lahat ng facts maikwento. So medyo mahirap rin po pag limited yung ating time.
Yeah. Lalo na for questions that will require a lengthy explanation and there are other, diba, conditions attached to it.
Yeah.
So, yun. There are still more questions, but maybe we can just send it to you by email because we
Sure.
already extended. So, and thank you very much for agreeing to extend 10 minutes.
No.
We took 10 more minutes of your time. So we'll just send it to you by email so that you can answer them.
Okay, and thank you very much for your active participation to everyone who attended. I had a very good time answering your questions and your concerns. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so thank you very much also everyone. And to those who have been attending our webinars, thank you. We have more. We promised to offer 20 because we're celebrating our 20 years and there are more webinars lined up. In fact, for this month there are 2 more and I know that our marketing team will be sending an email and an invite.
Thank you. Thank you, Assessment.
Thank you for joining, and thank you, of course, Attorney Mitch.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Attorney Mitch.
Thank you.
We'll see you again next week. We have another one coming up next week on AI in HR. So hope to see you again.